some of the importance of agric and the farming systems that are practiced in Ghana, then we understood that agric happens on the soil, and so it is important for us uh, to know about the soil. So in our the last lesson we had, we looked at how soils are formed. So we looked at rock and rock weathering. All right, now after we have formed the soil, after we know how the soil is formed, it's time for us now to look at what the soil that is formed is and how we can preserve the soil for it to be able to uh, last long for us to make our
Say,
food. Yes. Can you hear me?
say,
Yes, Cody Grace.
say.
Yeah, hello.
Say, please, I can't hear you.
The noise at your background is too loud. Make sure you get rid of the noise. Now you are the only one who can't hear me. It is probably because of the noise at your background.
Say,
Yes.
so your voice is
Okay.
low.
Hello. Hello.
So your voice is low. Your voice is low.
Okay.
Ah,
Can you hear me now? Is it okay?
yes,
Okay. I hope can you all hear me?
yes, sir.
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Yes,
Okay. Okay. All right. So let's go on. We shall be looking at how we can preserve and maintain the bedrock of agric, which is the soil, all right, so that it can last long for us, so we can use it to produce our animals and crops to feed us or to feed ourselves and the entire communities that we live in. All right, so in this lesson, or in this lesson and the subsequent ones, we shall be looking at soil conservation. Now, I would need you to pay a lot of attention because this lesson is very, if you like, is very loaded, very loaded. And so pay rapt attention, take note of the key points, and then we can run as fast as we can. Is that okay? All right, let me take you to what we shall be doing in this lesson. We shall look at the soil, we shall look at importance of soil, then we shall look at the methods of preservation of the soil, then we shall also look at soil nutrients, their sources and the role that they play. All right, then we shall also look at the different groups of the two main groups of nutrients, the micronutrients and the macronutrients. Then we shall look at soil fertility and soil productivity. Then after that, we'll look at soil erosion, the causes, the effects, the various types of soil erosion. And then we'll look at fertilizers. What fertilizers are, the various types that we have, fertilizer application, the different types of fertilizer application and all that. So it's a loaded lesson, it's a loaded course, and like I said early on, you should be paying a lot of attention to some of the relatively new things that you shall be exposed to. All right, along the line, let me let you know that if you have any concerns, you can just raise your hand and pause the class and ask. Don't pile questions down to ask later. You may not get a chance. So once you have something genuine to ask, raise your hand, and then we can attend to you in the course of the lesson. Is that okay? All right. The reason I am telling you this is you may forget in the end. And if you don't ask a question, the question will come back and ask you. And that's maybe too late for you. All right. So at the end of the entire soil conservation lesson, I would expect you to be able to explain the concept of soil and soil water conservation. All right, you be able to tell me what soil is, what is soil water conservation, and what is soil conservation, right? Then you should also be able to differentiate between micronutrients and macronutrients of the soil, given their respective um, importance, right? Then you should also be able to describe the many methods that we shall be looking at, many activities that enhance the soil's fertility. All right. Then you should be able to um, tell which fertilizers are organic and which ones are inorganic, and then of course their respective importance to the soil. Then after that, you should be able to um, tell us the causes of soil depletion or soil erosion. All right, so that is what we are targeting. That should be your target. That after the end of the lesson, you should be able to do all these. If you're able to do it, then it means that you have understood the lesson. All right, so this is something that should be guiding you in the course of the course. If you are not able to answer some of the questions in the objectives, then you should go back and read your notes, or then you should ask me questions. All right, if you're okay, then I am also ready for us to go into the lesson. Are you okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, then let's go straight up. What is soil? Now I've given you three main definitions for soil. um, the natural body that covers the surface of a thin layer resulting from the changes of rocks and minerals, all right, with organic matter mixed together to become a uniform substance. It's quite a lengthy one. So the natural body that covers the surface of the earth as a thin layer that comes from the transformation or decomposition of rocks and rock minerals with organic matter mixed together, all right, to become a uniform or homogeneous substance. So this is the definition that we coined from weathering of rocks. We understood from the previous lessons that when rocks wither, the result is that soil is formed. So in this first definition, I am putting together all the things that happens in rock formation, all right, to give you a definition for soil. Now, of course, the rock that breaks into smaller particles is actually is mixed with organic matter. All right. Now, this mixture with time becomes a uniform substance, and that is what we are referring to as soil. All right. Then it is also the unconsolidated mineral or organic material that is on the immediate surface of the soil and which serves as a natural medium for the growth of land plants. All right. So unconsolidated means that it is not necessarily cemented. It is not it is not compact, so to speak. So the mineral and organic material that are found on the surface of the soil, of the earth, that are not necessarily compact, all right, that are not necessarily compact, but are loose, all right, and of course, it serves as the natural medium that allows for growth and yielding of plants. Then there's a third part, which is a third definition, which is simple: the withered part of loose organic and inorganic materials where plants grow or where plant life exists. I think this is by far one of the simplest definitions that I can give you. So the withered part of loose organic and inorganic materials where plants grow or where plant life exists. All right, are you clear with that? Are you clear with that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
All right, fine, fine. We can go on. What are the components of soil? Now, because we know that soil is coming from rock materials that have broken down and have mixed with organic materials, and of course these rock materials we know contain some minerals. All right, so the things that form the soil are basically the things that the rock contains. Do you understand that? So in soil
Sir.
we will, great, in soil we will see uh, as major components, we will see dead organic matter, which is which is called humus, right? So we get dead organic matter. Then the examples are dead ants, dead leaves. Like in the picture that you see over here, you see that there are many dead things. All right, in there there are dead roots, dead plant parts, and some other animals, and even microorganisms that we cannot see with the unaided eye. All right, then also there are inorganic materials, all right, or the mineral matter. Now the inorganic materials could also include the individual soil particles. All right, they could include the soil nutrients. All right, they also encompass all the non-living parts of the soil. All right, the non-living part of the soil. So the some soils contain some oil, some gold, some iron, some manganese, and some other minerals. Okay, so all these things are found in the soil as components of the soil. All right. Then apart from that, we will get water. There is water in the soil. We call it soil water. Then of course there is air. We call it soil air. Then there are some living organisms. There are not only dead roots in this picture, there are some living roots. All right, there are insects, there are rodents that burrow through the soil, there are earthworms. Okay, there are ants and some other living organisms that reside or make their homes in the soil. All right, so you would agree with me that all these things are found in the soil, or they make up what the soil is. What is the importance of soil at all? I've been able to give you only four, but if you read your books, there are more than, there are so many importance or uses of soil. In fact, we are limiting the importance of soil to agricultural importance or agricultural uses. All right. So I have here that it is the source of nutrients for plant growth and yield. Of course, that goes without say. I think I mentioned that early on. Then it's a source of air and water for plants. Yes, of course, because we understood that soil contains a considerable amount of air and water. And now you know that plants need air and water for their survival and for some of their life activities. All right. Then, of course, the soil is a habitat to many organisms apart from the plants. So we mentioned some insects that live in the soil. In fact, to the biology students, such organisms that live directly in the soil are called edaphic organisms. Edaphic organisms. Elective biology, that's just a free information I'm giving you. They are called edaphic information. Edaphic organisms. Then we can also find some bacteria, some fungi, some rodents, all in the soil, right? Then it's also a means of mechanical support to plants, all right? Now, it is the soil that holds the plants firmly up, all right? So without the soil, uh, plants cannot grow. All right, let's go on. And now look at soil conservation. Now, everything that we do in order to conserve the soil also goes in a way to preserve the soil's fertility and the soil's water. All right. And at the same time, it becomes a measure used to protect the soil against erosion. Take note of that. So, with just one activity, we are doing four different things. We are conserving the soil, we are protecting or we are safeguarding the soil's fertility and soil's water. Then again, we are checking erosion with just one activity. Or that's activity that we do so that soil fertility and water are conserved, while at the same time checking erosion of the soil. Together will become what we call soil conservation. All right. So technically, soil conservation is a combination of practices that are used to protect the soil from degradation. All right. So all the practices that are used to protect the soil from degradation refers to soil conservation. All right. Now, in order to do soil conservation, you need to regard the soil as a living ecosystem, all right, where there are organisms, both living and non-living, which interact with one another, all right, to provide a balanced system. All right. Now, if you regard the soil as an ecosystem, that will make you recognize that all the organisms that are in the soil must be there for the soil to be the soil. All right. I hope you get that, because for instance, if you take the animals that live in the soil, you should appreciate the fact that they are responsible for breaking down organic matter. They are responsible for releasing nutrients. They are responsible for opening up spaces for circulation of air and water in the soil. And these properties, and these activities, when they happen, they enhance the fertility and the structure of the soil. So you don't go conserving soil by destroying the living organisms that are in the soil. That is what the information I put there means. You don't say you are coming to conserve the soil by burning the soil. All right. You don't say you are coming to conserve the soil by applying excessive amounts fertilizers to the soil, or by flooding the soil with water. Okay. Another definition is that soil conservation refers to the protection of the soil against erosion or deterioration or loss of nutrients. All right. So every effort, every activity that is aimed at protecting the soil against erosion and the loss of nutrients is called soil conservation. Are we on the same page?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, that's fine. Then the third definition I have for you is that soil conservation refers to the delicate combination. In fact, that's a typo mistake. A delicate combination of land use and land management methods that seek to protect the soil and its water from depletion through natural or human induced activities. Take note of the words that I'm using and try and understand them. So, a combination of land use and land management methods that seek to protect the soil and its water from depletion through natural means or human induced activities. All right. So we are putting every step in place to check the depletion of the soil structure, the soil water, the soil nutrients. All right. Either through natural means or through our own deeds. All right. So these are any of these three definitions are acceptable on any day. All right. Okay. Now let's delve into some of the techniques that uh, are used in conserving the soil. Bear in mind that any activity that we choose to conserve the soil must at the same time protect the soil from erosion, preserve the nutrients in the soil, or probably add more nutrients, and then also conserve the water that is in the soil. All right. So the first I want to talk about is the cover cropping. Now, cover cropping is basically the technique of planting crops that okay, just literally cover the soil. All right. So we plant crops such as the rye, the beans, alfalfa, and the wheat. All right, that are used to reduce the impact of wind and water on bare soil. All right. In fact, in Ghana, where alfalfa and rye, and we don't get to get wheat, all the leguminous crops are used, and it's effective. I think it's even more effective than the grasses. You know, the alfalfa, rye, and wheat are all grasses, all grass crops. Okay, class, hold on. Didone, you have your hand up. Unmute and ask your question.
Sir,
Yes.
sir,
Yes.
please, what is alfalfa?
It's a type of crop. Okay, I think this is what you will do for me. Thank God we are all having access to the internet. So some of the crops that I mentioned here, the rye, the alfalfa, and the wheat, it's just a matter of getting on the internet and then looking for the picture. All right. So type in the Google search engine alfalfa, then you can go to images and you see what it looks like. All right. Are you okay, Didone?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. But it's a type of plant. It's a type of plant. All right. Now in the picture over here is that's a wheat farm. All right, wheat farm. Are you okay? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes,
that's
sir.
fine. That's fine. Let's continue. So I was making the point that here in Ghana, um, leguminous crops such as beans, cowpea, groundnuts, they are also excellent cover crops, and they have proven to be even more effective than the grass crops. Examples of grass crops are the wheat, the rye, the rice, etc. But the leguminous crops are beans, cowpea, soya beans. Okay, soya beans also beans. In fact, all types of beans are legumes. And then, of course, groundnuts. All right. So these are also very important cover crops that we use here in Ghana. Okay. What is the importance at all? They are able to absorb the impact of rain. All right, and then reduce runoff. The first time we talked about rocks or so, I mentioned to you that runoff is the water that runs on the surface of the soil during rain times. All right, when it's raining. mm, so that is runoff. So if you have grasses or such crops planted on bare lands, you would understand that these plants will mitigate the effect of the runoff. You know that the runoff carries the surface soil or the top soil along with it and deposits it somewhere else. All right. So the topsoil containing nutrients will be taken away. But once you have these crops planted on bare lands, then they will reduce the effect, they will reduce the speed of the runoff, they will hold the soil together and make the soil, if you like, resilient to the fleeting water. All right. Do you understand that? So they are usually planted on susceptible areas that are prone to erosion, like steep slopes, like stream, river banks, all right, or any type of farm that is close to a water body. Are you okay? Yes. Let's hear Dieudonné again. What do you have for us?
Sir, please, my hand is not raised.
Pardon? Your hand is up again. Okay, all right, let's go on.
I forgot to lower it.
The next thing is what we call mulching. Now, in the activity of mulching, dry grass or any form of organic matter, all right? In fact, organic matter such as dry grass, straw, dry leaves, all right, etc., are used to cover the surface of the soil. To prevent the direct sun rays from reaching the soil. All right. Now we are preventing the direct sun rays from reaching the soil, thereby conserving the water that is underneath what we are using to cover the soil. Do you get it? Now, what we use to cover the soil, the dry grass, the straw, and so on and so forth, constitute what we call mulch. All right. Now, when we do that, the um the water is conserved. All right, and even if it rains or if we do irrigation, it allows for a better infiltration of the water into the soil. All right, it is not only that, but when the mulch materials also decay, they return nutrients into the soil. Do you agree with me? So essentially, the mulch becomes a source of nutrients for the soil. All right. Now it also makes the soil cool. mm? And of course, once it is cool, it will enhance microbial activity. you know that it is the microbes, mostly the microbes that convert the dead decaying organic matter into nutrients. All right. So the mulch provides an optimum condition for the microbes or the microorganisms to act. All right. So that is how come it is important to use mulching as a means of soil conservation. All right. Another importance of mulching is the fact that it binds the surface of the soil together. All right. So if if the surface of the soil is bound together, then it becomes difficult for it to be washed away by agents of erosion. Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, then we can go on. So in this picture, you see dead leaves, dead twigs, all right, that are used to cover the surface of the soil. And okay, even if it is a farm, it is usually done right at the base of the crop, all right at the base of the crop, so that the water will be conserved and will also prevent the direct sun rays from reaching the soil, and so on and so forth. All right. Okay, let's look at the subsequent ones. Agroforestry. Now, in agroforestry, we are introducing we are introducing trees onto our farms. All right. So we plant trees, tall and giant trees. All right. In our maize farm, you will not see only maize, but you will see mahogany trees. You will see teak trees. The teak trees are what people call here in Ho bimbo. I don't know where you got that name from, but well, that's what you people accept, but it is not correct. That is the correct name for that particular tree is teak, T-E-A-K, T-E-A-K. What we use to make the electric poles, all right, is TEAK. Of course, elective biology, I have an information for you again. It is called Tectona grandi. Tectona grandi. All right. Now, in our maize farm, it is not only maize. We have mahogany trees, we have teak trees, we have mango trees, we have a lot of other trees. What is the importance of this? It induces the rainfall, all right. It maintains a high rate of water infiltration into the soil and generally improves the soil structure and the soil's ability to hold water. Hello, are you with
Hi.
me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So if we are intentionally adding tree planting to our crop production, then what we are doing is agroforestry. All right, we don't just plant them, but we take care of them until they grow, until they are mature, so that we will reap all these benefits: the benefits of rainfall, the maintenance of high rates of infiltration of water, the improvement of the soil structure, and the enhancement of the soil's ability to hold water. All right. So all these are importance of giant trees on our farms. And if you're putting or planting trees, all right, then you are doing soil conservation. Um,
Sir,
yes,
please explain the agroforestry again. Didn't get.
okay. In the agroforestry, what we are talking about is that you are planting trees in addition to the crops that you are growing. All right. So what's the name? Bernadette. Is that Bernadette?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so if you have cassava farm, you have let's say um your entire classroom. In which class are you?
Then at one.
In general at one class. Okay, the general at one classroom is our cassava farm. All right, so general at
Yes, sir.
one classroom is our cassava farm. All right, but it is not only cassava that we are planting or we have planted over there. All right, now before you enter the classroom, at the edges, all right, at the edges we have planted trees surrounding the farm. All right, we have mahogany trees,
Okay.
we have teak trees, we have coconut trees, we have
Please mute your device.
we have neem trees and other big trees. All right, then what we are doing is
Yes, sir.
agroforestry. What we are doing is agroforestry. And what is the importance of that? The importance of that is first and foremost that uh, um, um,
Bernadette, mute your device.
that these trees will enable or will enhance the rainfall pattern. That means that they induce rainfall. The tall trees induce rainfall. All right. Then they once it rains, they are able to make the water enter deep into the soil because of their presence. All right, they're able to make the water go deep down into the soil. That's what we call water infiltration. All right, then of course, because of their presence, they improve the structure of the soil and then enable the soil to hold more water. Is it clear now?
Yes.
So under soil conditioning, we are talking about using stabilizers. Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
We're using stabilizers such as lime, such as potash, um, to, and then of course organic materials to improve the structure of the soil, and of course to enhance its water holding capacity. Now again, we use lime. We use lime when the acidity of the water is high. Sorry, the acidity of the soil is high. All right. Then we use potash. We use potash to increase the acidity of the soil or to reduce the alkalinity of the soil. You know, the opposite of acidity is alkalinity. All right. So we use lime and potash or organic matter to okay, we use lime to reduce acidity, then we use potash and organic materials to reduce the alkalinity. All right, now when you do that, the process will enhance or improve the structure of the soil, and then at the same time increase the soil's ability to hold water. Is that clear? All right. Then let's look at the next one, which is minimal tillage or zero tillage or conservation tillage. All right. Now, tillage basically means the manipulation of the soil for farming activities. So I said what? Manipulation of the soil for farming activities. Manipulation of the soil for farming activities. Now, if you are coming to farm, a way of manipulating the soil is maybe you plow the land and all that, right? Now, if you want to reduce or you want to conserve the soil, you would want to reduce how often you till the land, all right, before doing your cropping, all right. Okay, let me just share the other screen with you guys. I selected the wrong file. Share another one. So this is my full notes. Okay, so um, um the main importance of the conservation tillage is to reduce um, erosion that is caused by wind and caused by water. All right. Now, how do we do what is the principles that we use to do this? We should be able to keep bare soil protected at all time throughout the year. All right, either with living vegetation or with dead plants or dead residues from the previous crops. What that means is that after harvesting, you don't destroy the plants, but you leave them, all right, to remain on the soil. If you do that, this the dead plants will now serve as a cover for the bare soil or a mulch for that matter. All right. Then you should also minimize the number of times you till. I think I mentioned that. All right. Why do we have to do that? Because the bare soil is very prone to erosion.
Sir,
Yes.
sir,
Yes.
please, we are writing it, so it's too
Oh no no
fast.
no no. I'll send you the notes. Don't worry. Like I always do after the class, I'll send you the notes. Even this is not for
Okay,
you.
sir.
This is my own notes, but I'll send yours to you.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, sir.
You don't have to be writing. Please, all of you, listen carefully. You don't have to be writing everything that I share on the screen. It is important for you to take note of the main points. All right. Those are the things you should be writing, but not the entire thing. You know that at the end of the lesson, I'll send them to you. All right. Okay. Then under that, under the conservation tillage, you have what we call the zero tilling or no tilling. All right. So this one involves planting seeds into residue, all right, of the previous crop without tillage between the harvests. What this means is that if we are growing, if this season we are growing um, let's say maize, all right, now it's raining, so everybody is planting maize, all right. Now after harvesting maize, you don't destroy the 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 um the the plants that you have harvested from, all right, but you leave them on the farm like that until the next season when you are coming to grow okra, all right. When you're coming to grow okra, then you don't necessarily have to plow again, but you just plant the okra into it like that. What that means is that the dead maize plants from the previous season would now serve as mulch for the okra in this new season. Do you understand that?
Yes,
And then
sir.
of course
Yes, sir.
that also means
Yes,
that,
sir.
great, that also means that the field or the farm will not be left uncovered at any time. So all throughout the year, the field or the farm is covered. And once it is covered, it will prevent direct sun rays from reaching the surface of the soil. Then, of course, the timing for the no tillage is also very important. Yeah, the tilling should not be done, or the soil should not be manipulated when it is wet. All right. Otherwise, it will lead to soil compaction. Soil compaction means that the soil becomes so cemented, like heavy clay that cannot be easily, manipulated. So once the soil is wet, do not till, do not plow, do not go and weed. Let the soil at least dry to some extent. All right. Okay. Then the next one I would like us to look at is what we call contour plowing or contour farming. Contour plowing or contour farming. Now, under contour farming or contour plowing, we are planting along the contours of a hill or a high, how do you call it? Or a highland, if you like, a mountain. All right. So if our land is having a high topography, or it's like a hill or a mountain, you don't plant vertically along the slope. All right. I hope that geography people would really appreciate what I'm trying to say. You don't plant along the slope, but instead you plant across the slope. All right. So you plant along the contour rather than up and down the slope. All right. The rows of the plant act as dams, so even while you plant across the slope, you leave enough space, called rows and furrows. All right. Now these rows and furrows of the plant will act as dams, okay, which will slow down the runoff, which will slow down the speed of the runoff. All right, because the farm is along, or is on a it's on a hill. All right. So if you do the contour plowing with the spaces, then the spaces that you leave between the crops will now serve as dams. All right. That will lower the speed of the water that is falling from the top of the mountain towards the valley. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's fine. And once the speed of the runoff is lowered, then we are sure to be reducing the incidence of erosion, while at the same time conserving the nutrients in the soil, and for that matter, conserving the entire soil system. I hope that is clear. Now let's look at the next one. It is called strip cropping. All right, strip cropping.
Yes.
Over here, who is asking what? Richard.
Dad, mute yourself.
Okay, let's go on. Under strip cropping, we are I want to use another word for alternating. So okay, we'll alternate grains with legumes. Okay. How we do is, that for instance, if we plant maize and groundnuts, that these are two different crops. All right. The maize is a grain and the groundnut is a legume. You all agree with me that the maize is taller, all right, but the groundnut also spreads wider. All right. So at the same time, at the same place, on the same soil, we are having crops that would serve as cover crops. All right. And then, okay, the one that serves as cover crop also binds the surface of the soil together and then adds nutrients to the soil. You remember when we did crop rotation, and then we said that legumes that are introduced into the crop rotation system add nutrients to the soil by their unique ability of harboring nitrogen fixing bacteria in their roots. You do remember? All right, so that is it. So the groundnut would add nitrogen to the soil, would bind the surface of the soil together, and then will also spread its leaves over the soil, thereby preventing erosion. All right. Now, what will the maize do? The maize, with its height, will also prevent erosion that is caused by wind. All right. So, while the groundnut on the ground is preventing erosion caused by water, the maize or any other.
Too fast.
Please pay attention. But then I understand your points. Don't worry. So the point I'm making is that while the groundnut on the ground is preventing erosion that is caused by water, the maize, which is vertically erect, is also preventing erosion caused by wind action. Do you understand? So that is strip cropping. You are planting two crops for two different crops for two different reasons. All right, even though in the end you are conserving the soil. All right, so you alternate a grain with a legume. Okay, so the forage and the cereal grain rows tend to trap sediment that may otherwise end up in the water course. Is fine. That is good for the legume. That's for the legume. That's what I said, that it binds the surface of the soil together. Now, the strip cropping is very effective in controlling erosion on a slope when it is placed along the contour of the land. All right. So you know what the contours are, because we just looked at the contour farming, planting, across the slope. So across the slope, every step across the slope is the contour. All right. Now let's look at wind breaks. All right. Use of wind breaks. If you remember when we said when we talked about agroforestry, we said trees are planted, and then we looked at some of the importance of the trees. All right. One very important aspect of that is the fact that it serves as a windbreak. Now, what happens with this? Why I separate these points is that if you go to some places where soil conservation is the primary purpose, they intentionally, as it were, fence the entire farm with trees. All right. So your class is science. Is if our class is the dining hall, right? So we surround the entire dining hall with trees, huge trees, mahogany trees, flamboyant trees, cassia trees, acacia trees. All right. We plant these trees to surround the entire farm. So the trees form a fence of the sort. All right. But the chief importance of these trees surrounding the farm is for it to serve as what? Wind breaks. So that in the days of wind storms, all right, the trees will protect the crops that are on the farm. The trees will protect the soil, the topsoil, from being carried away by strong wind or by water. Do you understand? It also means that the branches and the leaves of the trees would also lower the effect of direct sunshine or rainfall onto the land. Do you agree with me? Do you agree with me on that?
Yes, sir.
Then of course,
Yes, sir.
then good. Then of course, the windbreaks or these trees will also will also provide shelter. All right, that that can be the shelter for other plants and animals. All right, even parts of these plants when they grow can be used as wood for fuel and other activities. All right, can use it to make hen coops and so on and so forth. Okay, then again we can use crop rotation. I I think by now you know what crop rotation is. The alternative planting uh, um, a field with different type of crops. Okay, planting different type of crops on the same piece of land in a succession or in a definite rotation. All right. Now, benefit? What benefits does crop rotation give to the soil? It reduces the risk of disease and pest attack. All right, because every crop has its own unique diseases and pests. All right, so if in year one on plot A we plant or we plant a crop called A. All right, and this crop A has uh, pests and diseases that are labeled XYZ. All right, then the next year we plant crop B, whose diseases and pests are labeled MNO. Would you agree with me that in the second year, pest and disease XYZ will not attack crop B because they cannot, or crop B is not what they feed on? All right. So before we come back to plant crop A, which will take at least 3 years, then the pests and diseases of crop A shall have died out or shall have migrated to somewhere else. Do you agree? Okay, then of course, another importance of
Sir.
the crop rotation is that the legumes that are used, or in fact, over here I use forage crops, the same as legumes. The legumes that are used in the cycle add fertilizers to the soil. I told you they fix nitrogen to the soil. All right, all right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Please, what,
Yes, sir.
what's the meaning of clover and step?
Yes, the clover is also a
Sir.
type of legume. Hello.
And
The
yes.
clover is a type of legume.
Okay, what
Is that
about alfalfa? Alfalfa.
somebody asked, and I told you it's also a type of legume. The clover, the alfalfa,
Oh,
all right, these are all types of legumes. But of course, the alfalfa is just like a type of it's a type of beans. Okay, I don't know. Shall we continue, please? The other process is creating a grassed waterway. All right, grassed waterway. What that means is that if your farm is at a location where there is, where water passes when it rains, all right, what you do is that you deliberately allow grasses to grow along the waterway. Mm? Mm? Or you intentionally plant grassy crops such as rice or wheat or millet or sorghum in the waterway. All right. Now, the grass in the waterway will reduce the the speed of the runoff. Did you get that? Give me a minute. I want to get you the picture
Say,
of the alfalfa. All right. So can you see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Can you see the picture I'm sharing?
No, sir.
No, sir, I can't see. No.
Okay, hold on. The network is quite low. The network strength is low. All right,
I
you
can't tell you.
let's continue. Once the picture loads, I'll let you see it. All right. Now we are saying that you develop a grass water way. All right, where you know that when it rains, the runoff passes here. You intentionally plant grasses over there. Now the presence of the grass will reduce the speed of the runoff.
No,
If the
sir.
speed of pardon.
Mm.
If the speed of the runoff is reduced, then we have reduced incidences of erosion. All right. Um, is permanently vegetated saucer-shaped channel designed to carry surface runoff across the land without causing erosion. It is commonly used where there is gully or real erosion taking place, all right, due to concentrated flow of water overland. All right, the grass slows down the flow of water and protects the soil from erosion. All right, now let's look at the last one for our lesson today. That is terracing.
Terrace. Terrace.
Terracing.
It's just
But
terrace.
give me some time. Let me. Okay.
Pronounce. I can maybe ask. I pronounce it to the spelling.
I'm waiting to get a picture. So give me some. Okay, good. So this is the picture of the alfalfa plant. Can you all see?
Yes,
Hello.
sir.
Yeah, so this is the picture of the alfalfa plant. In fact, it grows in clusters. This is just a single plant, but then it grows in clusters. It's not common in Ghana, even though I have seen some before. These are the legumes, the fruits that are produced. Okay, and I told you it's a leguminous crop, and it grows in what clusters. It doesn't grow alone. All right. So that's just by the way. Let's continue with our thing on terracing. Terracing. Now, a terrace is normally an earthen ridge, all right, within the water channel along the upper side. So you make where, for instance, still on the mountain, we are farming on the mountain, right? So you make channels or holes, all right. That's normally you can even plant grasses along or even in the holes that you make. So it's just a channel for the water to run through from the from the highlands, from the top of the mountain down into the valley. Do you understand? So you create channels on the or along the height of the land, so that once it rains, then it's the water passes through. All right. Now, terraces are designed to intercept runoff on a slope. All right, and then reduce its erosive action on the soil down the slope. So sometimes too, you can make the terrace, right, across the height, not always along the height. If you do it across the height, then you are creating something like a dam. All right, you're creating something like a dam in which water collects. Now, as the rain season recedes, or as it stops, when it stops raining, then you can now fetch the water that has collected in your terrace, all right, to water your crops. All right, so you are using the same, you are using just one stone to kill two birds. Terracing to conserve the soil, to prevent erosion, but then at the same time it becomes a dam or a pool or a dugout for you. All right, so while you are preventing erosion, you're also collecting water for your dry season farming activities. Is that okay? All right, of course, the water
Yes,
in the,
yes.
yes, whose hand is up? Once you do the terrace, you are reducing the speed of the runoff, and then you are directing it to a safe and stable outlet, all right, such as a water inlet or a standpipe or into a river. All right. Now, mind you, once you're doing this, you should minimize the use of chemicals on the farm. Otherwise, the water runoff will wash away the nutrients or fertilizers or chemicals into other water bodies, such as the river. And that will have very dire consequences on the users of the water. And of course, it will increase what we call eutrophication. In fact, it will make the nutrients in the water too high, and so the eutrophication will result, because the algae and plants in the water will have so much nutrients and will boom. Their production and the populations will increase, will outnumber the fishes and all that. All right. So that is that. Then that's what we have for today.